An aging body means you have been given the gift of a long life, of embodied wisdom. The lines on your face are not evidence of failure. They are the record of a life lived. My goal is not to stop aging. My goal is to make peace with every season and every version of this body. She is not your enemy. She is your temple.
Welcome to the Anniston Riekstins Show. This space is created for the woman coming home to her voice, her power, her way. For the woman remembering who she really is, beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the world's expectations. I'm Anniston, transformational guide, spiritual teacher, best-selling author, and creator, here to walk beside you, to share stories, wisdom, and energy that guide you back home. Here, we lead from the inside out. We create from overflow, not hustle. We rise not by becoming someone else, but by remembering who we've always been. This isn't just a podcast. It's a homecoming. So let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Anniston Riekstins Show. I am so honored you're here, sister. I know you could be anywhere at this point. And I want to tell you about a dream I had recently. And I want to tell you about it because I think you've likely had a version of it too. So in this dream, I was in New York City and I used to work there. So all of a sudden I became aware that I had put on a lot of weight. My hips were wide and my body had completely changed. And what I felt in the dream was this immediate, overwhelming wave of embarrassment, like disappointment, this internal verdict of I let myself go. And I woke up and I sat with that for many hours because here's what's interesting. I love my body. I genuinely do. I take care of her. I have done years of real deep work to get to a place of peace within the skin I live in. And yet, in wondering in front of men who represented old authority from a chapter of my life that I have long since closed, my first instinct was shame, was a loss of value. And I thought, that dream didn't come to haunt me. It came to show me something, and it's something worth talking about out loud. So that's what we're doing today. To start, I want to ask you a personal question, as I often like to start my episodes with. When did you first decide your body wasn't enough? Not when did someone tell you, but when did you decide? Like, when did it land? When did you take it in and make it yours? For most of us, it was so early. We can't even find the beginning. It just was. The measuring, the comparing, the looking in the mirror and locating everything wrong before you could find a single thing right. We think this is personal. We think this is just our story, our struggle, our particular broken relationship with our own reflection in the mirror. But I want to offer you something today that really changed everything for me. This was never yours. You inherited it from your mother, who inherited it from her mother, who inherited it from a world that has been systematically teaching women to mistrust their own bodies for a very, very long time. And once you see that, really see it, something starts to shift. So in my true truth teller fashion, in order to know why we think the way we do, we have to go back, way back to where this all began. 25,000 years ago, someone carved a small figurine out of limestone. She has beautiful white hips, a full round belly, generous rounded thighs, heavy breasts. She takes up space unapologetically. She is the Venus of Willendorf, one of the oldest known representations of the human form ever discovered. She was not a cautionary tale. She was a goddess. For most of human prehistory, the full female body was sacred. The curves we have spent centuries being taught to minimize and to apologize for. They were once the literal symbol of the divine feminine, of creation itself. Let that land for a second. Like, the body you have likely been at war with, the hips you have tried to shrink, the belly you've been sucking in since you were a teenager or earlier, in my case, that body in her fullness was once worshipped So what happened? Well, here's the history that nobody puts in the textbooks. As patriarchal religious and political structures rose, something very deliberate happened to the female body. She went from being sacred to suspect. The flesh became dangerous. Appetite was all of a sudden shameful. A woman's body, the very thing that had once been revered as the source of life, was reframed as the site of sin and temptation. Eve, the body as the thing that caused the fall of man. Hunger as a moral weakness of some sort. Desire as something to be controlled, contained, and corrected. So this wasn't really a fashion trend. I mean, this was a civilizational instruction. The female body in her natural form is insufficient, and she requires correction. Something else to consider. For most of recorded Western history, a woman who was not chosen by a man had no legal identity. She had no property rights. She had no economic access. She had no protection. Being chosen wasn't a romantic desire. It was the difference between safety and destitution. So what got you chosen? Well, youth, beauty, a body that signaled fertility and compliance. Your body was not yours. It was your application for survival. And that's not a beauty standard. That's a survival code. We are only 2 or 3 generations removed from women having no financial independence at all. Again, this is not ancient history, ladies. This is like cellular memory. The woman who handed you that measuring tape were not being cruel. They were trying to protect you the only way they knew how. So let's talk about corsets for a minute, because nothing makes this more visceral. The corset wasn't just fashion. It was like architecture. And to me, it always looked like cruel and unusual punishment every time I see it in a movie. Women's bodies were literally restructured from the outside to conform to a male aesthetic ideal. We're talking ribs displaced, organs compressed, breathing restricted. And here's the part that's absolutely mind-blowing to me. They put them on little girls as young as 3 or 4 years old. They called them stays. The shaping literally began before she had a single conscious thought about her own shape. Before she even knew that she had a body, someone was already deciding it needed to be fixed. The body was being disciplined before she knew she even had one. The corset eventually disappeared, but the belief underneath it didn't. It just changed form. Girdles, crash diets, shapewear with a new name. The instruction stays exactly the same. Your natural body needs to be corrected. Then came the 20th century and the most sophisticated delivery system for this wound that the world had ever seen. Advertising. And I know this one personally. Right out of college, I worked at a premier advertising agency. I was an account manager on an underwear brand. And I remember sitting in a meeting reviewing the billing breakdown for a single photo shoot. We billed 8 to 10 hours for editing one image. This was in 2003, clearly before all the technology now that does it instantly for us. But 8 to 10 hours of smoothing, narrowing, erasing, reshaping, creating the perfect cleavage, the most appealing stomach muscles. The women in magazines I had spent my entire adolescence comparing myself to, they weren't real. They had never been real. I was floored, and then I was furious, and then I was really sad. Advertisers didn't invent the wound. They just learned how to monetize it, to make women feel perpetually insufficient. Then sell them the cure. Just take this pill or eat this food or do this exercise routine or wear this shapewear and all your body's shortcomings will be fixed and you can relax and know that you are acceptable and worthy of being chosen. And that machine has been running ever since. But now it has real-time 24 access to us. It even listens to the words we say, analyzes our Google searches, so it knows just what products to put in front of us that we'll buy as the solution to the unfulfilled desire to be beautiful and have the perfect body. Okay, so now let me get personal. Growing up, the flatness of my stomach was my self-worth measure. I want you to hear how insane that sounds out loud. Being wanted was proof of existence. I started working out obsessively and I discovered I could control my size that way, and the world rewarded me for it. This is the currency. Stay small, stay chosen, stay safe. In college, I made choices I'm honest enough to name now that were not coming from love of my body. I remember showing up for Rush Week, basically a full week of being paraded through sorority houses to determine if you have the right looks and pedigree to be invited to join. All of the girls were so thin. They were so in shape, so put together, and I felt big and unattractive. I felt like an imposter and was genuinely surprised when I received an invitation to one of my top picks. I was pretty sure they had made a mistake, but I wasn't going to correct them. Diet pills, only eating one meal a day, and convincing myself I wasn't hungry. They were coming from fear of what I'd be without control over her. And here's what's wild. I had a friend in high school. She had a larger build than me. By every metric the culture had handed me, she should have been invisible. Instead, she was the most magnetic person in any room she walked into, completely at home in her own skin. I could not understand it. I couldn't reconcile it. I was doing everything right by the culture's rule book, and she was just free. It wasn't a body type. It was a frequency. She wasn't performing comfort. She actually lived there. That's what I want for you. To stop associating your body with size measurement and instead a frequency. I work with a system called soul contract numerology, and within that system, there is a specific number whose theme is called ugliness to beauty. Women who carry this number in their blueprint often come in with a deep core feeling of incompleteness, like the cellular level belief that their body is broken. It's wrong. It's not good enough. And when that wound goes unexamined, the body becomes the literal battlefield. The disconnection can run so deep that it shows up as chronic pain, as autoimmune conditions, as a relationship with food and control that goes far beyond a complicated history. The body is not malfunctioning. The body is expressing what has never been allowed to feel. I want to pause and speak directly to someone who might be listening right now. This topic, it is so loaded and the source of some of our greatest pain and suffering. Eating disorders are diseases. They are not a lack of willpower. They are not a mindset problem. They are serious, complex conditions with the highest mortality rate of any mental health condition. I will not minimize that. Not for a single second. What I'm sharing today is not a treatment plan. If any part of this is landing in a place that feels urgent, please reach out for real qualified support. I'll drop the Alliance for Eating Disorders helpline in the show notes. Please use it. Love and acceptance are not the only cure. They are the environment in which healing actually becomes possible. I also want to say something about a woman I knew. She carried this wound deeply. And those inner demons were loud in a way most people around her never fully understood. And she lost her struggle at the age of 45. Her life mattered. Her story matters. And if her story is in any way your story, please reach out for support. Hey, sister, let's take a quick pause because I want to tell you about something I have just released. It is a free numerology quiz called Uncover the Hidden Patterns Shaping Your Life. And all you need is your date of birth. Here's what you're going to walk away with. Your life path number, the curriculum you came here to master, and clarity on the hidden pattern that has been quietly running your life without you even knowing it was there. Because once you can see it, you can stop blaming yourself for it. You realize it was never a you problem. It was just a pattern you hadn't seen clearly yet. And once you can see it, you can actually do something about it. One of my clients said it best. She said, Anniston didn't just tell me about my path. She helped me remember it. That is what this quiz does. The link is in the show notes. It is free and it is worth every minute. Now back to the episode. So I started to notice patterns with my body. So when everything would just flow without a lot of thought on my part, and then the seasons when I was so conscious of everything I ate and how my body felt in my jeans, what I found was I would tend to carry extra weight when I was feeling stagnant, when I was telling the story that I was stuck, when I was afraid to make a change that I knew needed to be made, when I was avoiding my creative inspirations and consuming other people's creations as a substitute. And when I started doing the real work, like the inner work, the deep emotional healing work, my body responded because I started releasing what I had been carrying, the emotional weight. The body is not the problem. She is just a messenger, okay? A woman who feels unworthy in one body will find a new reason to feel unworthy in a different one. The feeling was never located in the body. It was located in the belief. When you start approaching your body with love instead of a correction project, she responds to that. Not because the body changed first, but because you, and more specifically the lens with which you see her, did. As women, especially as we move through midlife, we make choices about our bodies. Extensions, highlights, skincare, surgery, Botox. And I am not here to tell you what is right or wrong for you. I have made many of these choices myself, but I had to learn to ask myself a question, like a real one. Am I doing this because it genuinely brings me joy? Or am I doing this because I'm afraid of what I'll be without it? Desire and need are two completely different energies. There's a version of self-care that comes from love. That version feels expansive. It feels like play. And there's a version that comes from fear. And that version feels like work, feels like debt you're always behind on. I had a reconstruction surgery on my nose. And in full honesty, when I had the original desire, it was 100% coming from the wound, from the belief that a different nose would make me more worthy, more valuable, more desirable. So I decided against it for that reason. I knew no amount of reconstructive surgery could reconstruct my self-worth. And instead, I did my own inner work. I fell in love with my body as it was. Years later, when the desire came back, it felt different. It was coming from a completely different place. I wanted to breathe better. And yes, I got to choose how my nose was going to look. By the time I did it, I didn't need it. And that distinction made all the difference. But that choice wasn't for anyone other than myself. And I don't regret it for a second. The only thing that actually made me beautiful was self-love. Because it shines from within. It's energetic. It's an essence. It's a feeling. It's not a feature. It's important that I point out women wound each other with this too. It's the silent comparison, the commentary, the innocent gossip with a girlfriend about someone's body. We absorbed the lie and then we became its enforcers until someone decides to stop. Men inherited a distorted lens too, just a different one. Their wound comes from the same broken system. We are all trying to find our way home inside a world that profited from keeping us lost, through women deciding to stop measuring and to start marveling at their bodies, through teaching our daughters that their body is not an application, it's actually a home. What if your body is the most sophisticated, sacred technology you will ever have access to? Right now, without you asking, your body is circulating blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. She is regenerating cells. She is digesting, restoring, regulating, communicating. The gut contains over 100 million neurons. It thinks. The heart has its own neural network. Your cells carry memory. She was always talking. We just weren't taught to listen to her. Why don't we marvel at that? Why is the miracle of cellular regeneration less interesting to us than the circumference of our waistline? An aging body means you have been given the gift of a long life, of embodied wisdom. The lines on your face are not evidence of failure. They are the record of a life lived. My goal is not to stop aging. My goal is to make peace with every season and every version of this body. She is not your enemy. She is your temple. I know my body now. I really know her. And not as a set of rules to follow, but as a living, breathing being with her own intelligence and her own language. I know what makes her feel most alive. I know what depletes her. I know when she is asking for rest and when she is asking for movement. And she tells me whether I got it right, not through a number on a scale, but through my level of energy, through my clarity, through that long exhale at the end of a workout where every single cell in my body just settles. That's the conversation I want for you. It's not my conversation, it's yours with your body in her specific language. She's been trying to tell you things your whole life. What would change if you finally started listening? I believe our souls have a hand in choosing the body we inhabit for this lifetime. I want you to picture this for a moment. Before you were born, you had a planning session. Let's pretend you had a planning session, a sacred conversation between your soul and the intelligence of the universe, God, creator, about what you came here to learn. what patterns you came to master, what experiences would crack you open in exactly the right ways. You co-created that blueprint, that plan for this lifetime, and then you chose the body that would support it. She was chosen because she was the right instrument for the music you came here to make. I chose her for a reason for this. The body you have been at war with was selected by the wisest part of you before you took your first breath. We don't thrive despite our bodies. We thrive because of them. This lifetime in this body is the only chance you get with this particular instrument. What if you spent it marveling instead of measuring? I want to tell you why I talk about this with every single woman I work with. I work with women who have something real to say. Women who are here to heal and teach and guide and to create. Women with a calling that is bigger than their comfort zone. And one of the first places we always land is here. This exact conversation. Because I have watched brilliant, gifted, deeply called women stay small. And not because they lack the knowledge or the skill, but because they were still standing at the mirror, making the reflection mean something about their worthiness to be seen. The boulder in the middle of the road to your purpose is not always fear or failure. Sometimes it's this. And that is the lie doing its most dangerous work. It's not just stealing your peace, it's stealing your purpose. The world is waiting for what you carry. The women you are meant to reach are out there right now. The reflection in the mirror is not a verdict, it's just a reflection. And you get to decide what it means. Your daily mantra needs to be nothing short of, I am enough. I have always been enough. And I have work to do. There is a word for the woman we are becoming as we age, as we transition out of menstruation and into menopause, the crone. And I want to reclaim that word because somewhere between the ancient world and now, she went from the most revered woman in the community to the villain in the fairy tale. From the wise elder whose counsel was sought, whose life experience was considered sacred knowledge, to something to be pitied, erased, made invisible. And we have to ask why. Here's what I think. Because if a woman's value was always her youth and her beauty and her desirability, then an older woman is a woman whose currency is running out. The system has no use for her, so it taught us to fear becoming her. It taught us to fight aging as if it were a disease, to spend billions chasing the version of ourselves the world found most useful, to grieve the loss of the very thing we were told was our only real value. But what if we got it completely backwards? What if the crone is not the loss of the woman? What if she is the fullness of her? The one who has lived enough to stop performing, who has survived enough to stop apologizing, who has loved and lost and rebuilt enough times to know exactly who she is and take up every inch of the space she has earned. The lines on her face are not evidence of fading. They are the record of a woman who was fully here. The elder in ancient traditions wasn't tolerated. She was sought out. Her wisdom was the most valuable thing in the community precisely because it could not be faked or rushed or bought. It could only be lived into. Sisters, we have to change this conversation for ourselves and especially for the daughters watching us age, for the women coming behind us who deserve to inherit a different story about what it means to grow into the fullness of a life. The crone is not the end of the woman. She is the beginning of the most powerful version of her. A few years ago, my daughter came to me and told me she was struggling. She said she didn't like her body, that her stomach and her thighs felt too big, that she felt so much bigger than the other girls her age. Oh, man, and I felt something crack open in me when she said that because I knew exactly where she learned to look at herself that way. Not from nowhere, from watching me, from the way I looked in the mirror, what I said, how I treated my own body when I thought no one was paying attention. She was always paying attention. And that was the moment I knew I had to go all in on healing my own wounds, not just for me, but for her. Because we cannot help but pass what we carry to the ones who are watching us closely. So she and I, we healed together. I shared my own struggles with her honestly. The history I carried, the measuring, the ways I had made my worth about my body for so long. And in telling her, something in me healed too. That's the gift our daughters give us when they're brave enough to tell us the truth. They hand us back the invitation we weren't ready to accept for ourselves. Your body has been breathing for you without even ever being asked. While you were sleeping, she was restoring. While you were busy criticizing her, she was circulating and digesting and healing and regenerating. She is my partner, my guide, my messenger, my biggest champion. The least I can do is love her back. And that love looks like relationship. It looks like asking her what she needs and actually listening. It looks like moving in ways that feel like love instead of punishment. It looks like waking up in the morning and saying thank you before you say anything else. Vitality is not and has never been a pant size. It is what happens when a woman stops fighting her own body and starts coming home to her. That shame you have carried about your body was never yours to carry alone, and none of that originated with you. We get to break this cycle together by marveling instead of measuring and by choosing love over fear. You were never the problem, and she never was either. And if this conversation is stirring something in you, if you are ready to do the deeper work of coming home to yourself, I am opening the doors to Embody Her very soon. Embody Her is my membership for women who are ready to stop performing their lives and start actually inhabiting the fullness of them. Click the link in the show notes to get on the wait list so you're the first to hear. You'll be the first to know when the doors open. And until that time, I'm going to ask a favor. I'm going to ask that you like, you subscribe, and that you share this episode. I do believe this message has the power to completely transform someone's perspective of their own bodies and thus their entire life. And if there's a woman or a man in your life that you would like to share this with, that you feel could benefit from this message, I'm going to ask that you share it. You share it on Instagram, you share it on Facebook, you forward it directly to those who need it, because we get to change this narrative, but we're going to have to do it together. So again, with that, I love you, I see you, and I can't wait to connect with you again on next week's episode.
Thank you for being here, beautiful soul. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love for you to pass it along to another woman who might need these words today. And if you feel called, it would mean so much if you would take a moment to rate and review this podcast. It's one of the best ways to support this work and help these messages reach more women who are ready to remember who they are. And if you'd like to stay connected or share what's landing for you, come find me over on Instagram. I'd love to meet you there. Until next time, keep trusting your rhythm, keep honoring your voice, and keep becoming the woman you were always meant to be.